Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is a sensor? How is censorship defined? So my rights continue to be violated. I'm actually at a park because I still do not have a place to confidently work, and I still do not have a place to confidently record my discoveries, which is supposed to be protected by Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution, First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I've been abandoned by my species. I am being held against my will. I am seeking asylum for scientific persecution immediately and have been for years. With that being said, we move along with our derivation. Again, just progressing through analysis until we arrive at this conceptualization that produces linguistic structure that is definitive. How do we spell sensorality? Well, we know how to spell sensorality, but what is the conceptual motivation for spelling censor with an S versus censorship with a C? And so, just continuing through our steps, and a little comment on Eric Weinstein on the All In podcast at the end. And so, just arriving at a sufficient differentiation of it is what it is, progressing through our logic. Fundamental theorem of logic: sensorality is a special set of steps. Natural definition, direct iteration. From rhythm, a set of steps. Now we add our logical operation from our axiom. Speciality, a special set of steps. A rhythm is a set of steps. An algorithm is a set of steps, right? If you want to maximize efficiency of a rhythm, RHYTHM, it's a set of steps, but so is an algorithm. And so this linguistic structure, the actual letter structure, is produced from the last derivation. Conceptually, from rhythm to algorithm is still a statement of identity. And again, that is what you're really doing at mathematical proofing in its entirety, in its completeness, is showing it is what it is specifically. What is a sensor? Fundamental theorem: an algorithm is a special set of steps. Natural definition. What is sorting to stepping? I wrote a quick little poem. I was feeling very inspired. The ops stepped, the ops slept. It was almost like a haiku, but not quite. But again, just step to slept, and put it in a nice little poem form for you. Sensorality slept, direct iteration. What is a problem to a proof? Direct iteration. Is frontier top tier? Direct iteration, again emphasizing from last episode, frontier is this geometric logical statement of, hey, tiers are vertical, up and down, and we're at the front of the tier. Weird kind of association, and then we have this phrasing, top tier. Is a frontier a horizon? Sensorality differentiates uniqueness. Sensorality is specialty differentiation. Is artisanal special? Sensorality is artisanality. Fundamental theorem: analysis is artisanal. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is special analysis. Natural definition, direct iteration. Analyze, realize. Sensorality is special realization. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality appreciates specialty. Sensorality appreciates speciality. Direct iteration, again from logical chronology, linguistic chronology, this differentiation, what is sensorality, has to come from linguistic logical structure of speciality. Sensorality is penalty. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is penalty to liability? What is penalty to fault? Sensorality puts its best foot forward. Direct iteration. What is a foot to a step? What is a foot to a root? What is footing to proofing? Sensorality is on good footing. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is oration to articulation? What is articulation to acceleration? What is resolution to acceleration? Sensorality resolves sensation. Direct iteration. What is reiteration to resolution? Again, physically, if you look around you, we're outside, back outside, because as we said last year, nature and shit. But all of the evolution, all of the growth of plants and of flowers and trees and nature, that is gyrating. right? That is stabilization produced by this inversion, physically, fundamentally, geometrically, the maximization of surface area. Maximizing surface area produces stability. What is footing to feeling? Articulation is an art. Direct iteration. What is oration to articulation? What is articulation to acceleration? What is resolution to acceleration? Sensorality resolves sensation. Direct iteration. What is reiteration to resolution? Sensorality iterates solution. Direct iteration, our total analysis process is linguistic containment. This conceptualization produces this linguistic structure, sentences, theorems, words, expressions, and that letter structure contains other things, and that is bounded by irreducibility, fundamental associations of sound to meaning. And that produces irreducibility linguistically, or at least definiteness linguistically, again meaning the letter structure. Is a solution a proof? Is a proof a solution? Is a solution a limit? Are limits loose? Loose goose, as you can hear in the background. The goosies are loosey. What is loose to lose? What is use to use? Direct iteration, that one obviously the same exact letter structure. Different intonation, different meaning. Or use versus use. And immediately, what's the exact difference between that? Definitely different sound, but when do you use them versus when do you use them? Context. Sensorality diffuses. Is a fuse a sensor? I think we're about to get a flyover. Hopefully we don't get pooped on. Is a fuse a sensor? Direct iteration. Uh-oh. Bogies have gone north. They redirected. I think we're in the clear. Dispersion is diffuse. Diffusing thwarts. Direct iteration. Thwart, threat. Is that a threat? Is that a treat? Is a threat a treat? Direct iteration. Sensorality threatens stability. Direct iteration. Sensorality is mistreated. Direct iteration. Abuse misuses. Direct iteration. Sensorality reinforces literacy. Back to this containment. Iterate is our fundamental linguistic word to mathematical operation. What is exponentiation? Iteration, reiteration, the exact logical application of those two words. Which context do we say iteration and reiteration? Still, again, unresolved in this derivation, but that is clearly the word to the mathematical operation. Exponentiation is a statement of reiteration. And then from containment, what words contain iterate? Literate. And so, where are we at? Stability reinforces literacy. What is literacy to fluency? Sensorality reinforces fluency. Fluency is influential. Control is influential. An influencer is a controller. Natural definition. Sensorality controls connection. Connector, controller. Words have meaning. Words have different meaning. What is meaning to feeling? What is feeling to sensing? Sensorality feels it out. Direct iteration. Sensorality gets a feel for it. Direct iteration. Is temperature felt? Sensorality feels felt. Sensorality touches grass. Direct iteration. Again, we're producing this overall form of language for a specific solution. So again, like we said, touching grass was not a phrase, even though I kind of try to stay hip on the interwebs with the new lingos. But feels felt like the surface is again this logical form of touching grass. Again, I can't break conceptualization. I can't break the irreducibility of language. I live in the same culture that you do. And so it's like, if you try to sit down and say a bunch of stupid stuff, it's like hard, it's difficult. And so we're just resolving, again, these linguistic logical implications from what is a sensor. We've clearly identified a problem or something that has not been articulated. Right? What is sensorality? Touching grass keeps it real. Direct iteration, again, what does someone mean when they say touch grass? You know, get out into the real world, get outside your mom's basement, touch grass, experience the real world. Touching grass keeps it real. Sensorality is the root of the problem. Natural definition, direct iteration, sensorality identifies the root of the problem. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing logarithmicality, uniteration, roots, right, the root of a problem. I'm going to get one over on you and find the root of the problem. Fundamental theorem of emotion, sensorality is the root of identity. Natural definition, direct iteration. And again, this containment contextually that produces our linguistics is emotion. What is literacy to agency? Sensorality filters literacy, direct iteration. Sensorality is literacy filtration. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality inverts containment. Direct iteration, what is contraction to containment? Is subtraction contraction? What is feeling to connotation? Sensorality feels connotation. Direct iteration, what is connotation to connection? What is connection to contraction? Again, emphasizing the R-N relationship, obviously, but N's contain R's, and then we've derived co-ality for the structure of connotation and connection. Does socializing connect? Meaning is associated. Words have meaning. How do words get their meaning? First of all, what is a word? An association of a sound to a meaning. We can improve that definition. Again, all of this resolves. Anything logically that feels like it isn't resolved is just, again, this progress of working out, ironing out all of our implications, squeezing out all of our implications. Meaning, I present information in such a poignant way, you can immediately ask questions. I can tell you can feel the incompleteness. You can immediately be like, what about this or what about that? It's not even the point. We're just showing the connection of this logical progression to have this definiteness of syllability, of letters associated to sound which have meaning. Right? So at this point, a word is an association of sound to meaning, but then you could, back to what does mean, right? You have things that are sounds that are associated to meanings that aren't words. So it's not a complete definition, or it's not finalized, it's not sufficiently applicable and limited, right? You get what I'm saying. But anything that is unresolved is, again, this process of squeezing out all of our logic. But words have meaning, and meaning is associated. Sensorality is social meaning. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is meaning emotional? Is socializing emotional? What is socializing to sensationalizing? Sensorality sensationalizes, direct iteration. Speciality sensationalizes, direct iteration. A sensorist is a sensationalist. A sensationalist is a scientist. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is sentiment scientific? Right, and I want to point out the sentiment. We go on the stock market and we have the market. Sentiment is formed from consensus. A bunch of independent people running around, they'll experience the same world. And so the sentiment is like ontology, comes from the sentiment. Right? There's one correct way to talk about the world around you. And so sentiment is singular, kind of, at least stressing that here. What is insecurity to inability? And we'll get back to this, is sentiment scientific, sentiment in consensus, back to our great Eric Weinstein criminal. Which I can't emphasize enough, all of academia has no role in the dissemination of science. They are purely criminals insulated by bigger criminals, the law enforcement agencies. All of scientific discovery, all of the things you could articulate logic are contained within this derivation. It is the only complete axiomatic derivation in human history, in this whole culture. And so you can't say anything better than we're already doing, because again, we're reducing all of the language results independent of one person. Professor Tao wants canonicality. We'll give you reduced canonicality with proof, so there's no point to try to articulate other things. Words are naturally defined, and we're demonstrating that whole process. And we already have. Speciality, special with an ITY. But we'll return to sentiment and consensus when we talk about Eric's Moore crime. What is insecurity to inability? Is insecurity disability? What is disability? Wanting to emphasize two legal context. Somebody, you watch some police videos, you see some rap sheets, and there'll be charges with disability. So-and-so had a weapon under disability. Which that context doesn't strike me like, hey, Johnny's getting his benefits from social services. Which that's also disability. If Susan gets injured at work and she's on disability, maybe it's the same exact context, but I don't see like when you're articulating a crime and it says somebody has a possession of a weapon under disability, is that somebody that's on like welfare, or is like, what is disability in that context? Is that somebody that's injured in the workplace? Clearly the legal context kind of implies it's like, hey, right, this is like an aggravating or escalating circumstances. It's like this person shouldn't have a weapon. It's under disability or on disability. I'm not really sure what it is. Just emphasizing that. I'm sure it has a clear answer, but again, emphasizing this logical progression. What is disability to deniability? Direct iteration. What is liability to disability? Does mitigation minimize? What is mitigation to integration? What is integration to allocation? What is allocation to collection? Sensorality welcomes members. Direct iteration. Sensorality is welcoming. Belonging is welcoming. Natural definition is belonging oblong. Sensorality is a long time. Forever is a very long time. Natural definition. What is viability to liability? What is viability to syllability? Sensorality is the viability of syllability. The shape structure in which you can represent sounds are limited. The sounds you can make are physically limited. So both letter structure and articulation of sound is a physical limit. It's just the association of what those sounds mean is different, both in human culture from language to language, and then overall there's a spectrum of what sounds can be articulated or what sounds can be made, even from inanimate objects to sentient life. Sensorality is the viability of syllability, the ability to be a syllable. What is viability to velocity? Viable is realistic. What is an to R? Emphasizing the RN relationship. What is R to ore? Iron ore. What is existence to viability? What is viability to probability? What is probability to property? Sensorality bounds speciality. Direct iteration. Is censorship algorithmic? What is stepping to functioning? Sensorality is the function of step. Sensorality is a step function. Natural definition, direct iteration. Heard that in math class before, emphasizing, again, this natural definition of rhythm is where you get a step function. Physical things are discrete. Movement in time is motion. Rhythmic movement is motion. Is function formal? Sensorality is how censorship functions. So now directly from that step, censorship functions, then we break down censorship completely to chip sensor. Sensorality is how sensor chips, and that S comes from the functions of the last step. And then sensorality is how sensor chips function. Natural definition, direct iteration. Emphasizing censorship functions is complete syllability to sensor chips function. What is chipping to pitching? What is pitch to tone? Is pitch register? Is pitch range? Sensorality registers range, direct iteration. Sensorality is a cache register. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, another quote from Socrates, I believe around the year 69 BC. From cash we were made, and to cash we shall return. Right? Is ash dust? Obviously a logical substitution of ashes, ashes, we all fall down, and then we made that cash, and then From dust we were made, into dust we shall return. Now, Socrates translated that, from cash we were made, into cash we shall return. It's all about that liquidity, that solvency. Is ash dust. Sensorality rehashes. Ash, hash. Direct iteration. Rehashing is reiterating. Natural definition, direct iteration. Reiteration recovers. Direct iteration. Hey, we covered that in class. Hey, we're going to recover that in class. That's reiteration. That's recover-e. Sensorality is recover-e. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is memory to recovery? Is recovery sensory? Sensorality recovers memorability. Direct iteration. Sensorality is recoverability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Cover, core. Is recovery core? Direct iteration. Are memories mutual? What is memory to story? Is history memory? Direct iteration. Is a bank a store? Is a bank a store of value? What is security to currency? Is a bank a book? Is a bookie a banker? What is a banker to a bunker? Emphasizing one element change, A to U. We have a person to a not person. Sentient to inanimate. What words mean people? Emphasizing or meaning, right? What's the linguistic structure, right? A scientist, that's a word for a person. A auditor, that's a word for a person. So what is this structure, or how do we form words in a generalized way that represent people? Again, with this overall kind of conjecture or empirical evidence or assertion that because of all human beings are the ones articulating language, you're going from a level of personification to inanimacy, not the other way around. Right? All of our language is personified, is what we've said. What is person to people? How do we go from singularity to plurality? What is form to structure? What is sentencing to structuring? Sensorality structures sentence. Direct iteration. What is continuity to regularity? Are circles regular? A sensor is a regulator. Natural definition. Sensorality regulates filtration. Direct iteration. Right? I have senses with an S, so I'm a sensor with an OR, or with an S as well. It's our big overall conjecture or assertion. Right? My microwave does not have senses like I do, and we have this consistency, sensorality. We're just showing this completion of this iteration of this word family, and words have different meaning, so it's finite. But in totality, all definitions by definition is definite, which is a form of finite. But again, then we have this linguistic formality, or alitalitality, it is indefinite. So we have the stacking of prefix, base word, inversion, all of the information's in our letters, just getting our concepts in the right order. Sensorality regulates filtration. Direct iteration. A regulator is a valve. A sensor is a valve. A gauge is a sensor. Is a language an algorithm? Direct iteration, again, our linguistic element from rhythm to algorithm. Algorithm, direct iteration of logarithm. Exponentiation, logarithmicality is the inverse of reiteration, of intrication, intricality is what we had yesterday. But we have this, again, this elemental movement, right? Logarithm, algorithm, same exact letters, different order. It's not one exact letter. But then we have language in gauge, where it has this, again, the same type of gauge to language. The A and the U change elemental spaces, emphasizing that one letter kind of difference, and then the two letter difference of an algorithm and logarithm. We're pairing some sort of logical inversion to linguistic iteration, where we reduce all of the structure, produces our definition, and we just show sensorality. Sensorality, the letter structure already iterated into another word form. Sensorality is a value valve direct iteration. And again, valve, gauge, that double consonants of VV in valve, GG in gauge, SS in sensor. Sensorality is a language filter. Fundamental theorem of logic, sensorality is a language algorithm. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is logicality to legality? Is logic legal? Direct iteration. Is liability logical? Is liability legal? So that is where I finished up with the derivation. Again, I did watch a little bit of the All In podcast. Great host, has a really strong lisp. That's always what you want for a podcast host. But it's just interesting to see, again, who gets following on social media. But Eric Weinstein was up there, again, fraudulently talking about nothingness. He was just the first weirdo I saw online directly stealing from me over 10 years ago. And we're still up there articulating like, hey, this is Eric in the conversation. You know, we need to have breakthrough scientists and we need to have renegade scientists and cowboy science. Again, as if him and his cohort are going to have any relevance to anything besides just going to prison. Again, objectively, from a market dynamic standpoint, from an empirical fact standpoint, when you have a species running around saying, we don't know what mathematics is at all, 0%. And it's like, we don't know what physics is, 0%. We don't know what linguistics is. Here's an infinitive verb, wrong. Just so you guys have no idea how to do anything. I come along, I develop property. It is and then you're still in this world where all logic is slang. And so there's much more personality to a derivation than you would think. But I'm the first person to articulate speciality special with an ITY. That is a result independent of me. I don't introduce any new words or conceptualization. Just here's what this word means, proven by this prefix, which isn't even or suffix, which isn't even a suffix, it's just another word, and then the natural sound, the E, to generalize at the end of a word. And so that is the only axiomatic derivation, that is the only demonstration of mathematics, and there's objectively no physical point to try to like have somebody else stumble through anything. But regardless, Eric is up there and he's talking like, yeah, man, we need these people that aren't fettered by consensus. So Eric, Professor Weinstein, I don't know if you're ever a professor, but what is a function, brother? You have your PhD in mathematics, right? If I have x squared, f of x equals x squared, and I put in 2, do I have to get a consistent output, right? It has to be the same output every single time. A function has to be consistent. We've derived that and we've proven that, but Eric's up there saying we don't want consensus. So now historically, we do want consensus. The consensus is just as quintessentially wrong as you could be, right? When we're talking about this natural inversion in language, sociologically we have perversion, direct projection. People say one thing and they do the exact opposite. They're hypocrites. And so Eric is up there saying we don't need consensus. We do need consensus, right? If you don't have consensus, if you're not saying the consistent thing, you don't have functionality. You're not functioning. So don't think of your equations, Eric. If you put f of x equals x squared, and you put your 2 in there and you get 4 one time, and you get 2 in there and you get a 7 the next time, that's not a function. If you talk logic to one person and then logic to another person, one guy's at Harvard, one guy's at the University of New Delhi, one guy's at the University of Beijing, and then you get the opposite answers, that's not functioning, literally directly, right? And so you do want consensus, you just want the consensus to be correct. We're at a point of history where you guys legitimately, there is some understanding of, hey, we don't know what mathematics is because it's a huge process, but there was no understanding to, hey, I'm Brad, I'm a paying student, I'm in physics class, this is wrong, this is directly wrong, and then I can articulate the structure of the proof immediately. But you guys are too arrogant to listen as a paying student. And then I went to school and sat in math class and physics class. I have all of these stories my entire life of people, again, having what you now call ontological shock. So we do need consensus, we just need consensus to be correct. And you guys are not correct, and now we have a correct answer. And the biggest thing throughout all of scientific dissemination is just projection. Of just people blurting out no on some sort of quote-unquote scientific basis when it's really just their personal ideology or something not aligning with their worldview. The prescription of cannabis, the legalization of quote-unquote psychedelics, which are just tryptamines. And the entirety, totality of cellular regeneration, the whole conversation comes from a place of restriction, right? We just had the FDA issue, you can have up to 5 cups of coffee a day. I don't want you to tell me what I can do. I want you to tell me what is optimal. Right? Metabolism is not some sort of secret thing from one person to the next. And so we never see policy articulated from a point of, here's optimality. If you wake up every day and you want to make the most out of your life, here is what you should do. And frankly, for biological science, most things are biologically neutral. We've covered that a lot, but it's just this overall articulation of science from the FRTA, from sort of biological science articulation, to fundamental physics, to computer science, to linguistics, to anything what you would call rigorous, hard, core STEM, is just people projecting. I have went through the whole school system, and I've never once experienced anybody that could behave otherwise. You were born into a culture sets expected behavior, and you guys have no idea how to behave. So we do want consensus, but we're at a point where there's nothing else to say to you idiots besides Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You guys are criminals. And so Eric's up there just acting like, again, he's part of this, any part of this world that isn't just directly going to prison for being a criminal. And so that's another aspect of this whole immaturity, this profound underdevelopment, is they can't imagine a world where they actually face criminal punishment. And they've committed the most profound criminal activity in human history. Right, when you have Christ the Redeemer throughout history, who do you think he's redeeming? Right, when he's going into the temple and flipping over the table and saying, these tax collectors, what are you guys doing? Right, who do you think he's redeeming? The Beatitudes, lowly is the meek. There's a bunch of people that die because other people don't know how to behave. And if you're a scientist, we have the most corrupted, cutthroat organizations really run by the most pathetic of individuals. You go up to your average professor at Harvard or at Stanford or at Caltech or wherever, and they're just hardworking. If they're scientists, they're rigorous and they're following the evidence. And then, Stanford has a 7% acceptance rate, or Princeton has a 3% acceptance rate. I applied to college. I do more mathematics in a given day than anybody has ever done in history, and there's nobody even close to like reduction of a linguistic structure. Like not even in the same. Nothing. And so it's just like you say one thing, you do the opposite. You guys are profound hypocrites. Here is the law. That's the only bridge to cross. There is no forward besides that. And every day that goes by, you are causing more death and destruction by lying about science. And so, again, Eric's sentiment of saying, and I just kind of like flipped around, but he's like, we can't, I want to say screw consensus. And then obviously he immediately starts articulating, not verbatim, but paraphrasing, did Anthony Fauci kill 10 million people? Eric, you are killing a profound amount of people by lying about science. All of your colleagues and cohort of criminals. You're just projecting the things that you are doing. And again, I have no respect for Eric Weinstein. He's just some weird fucking dude I got online and he was directly stealing my property. Immediately. Why is he not in jail yet? All of his assets are fraudulent. Truly. All of academia's assets are fraudulent. They continue to be fraudulent. The criminal penalty, somehow, I cannot articulate more serious crimes and more serious punishment than complete banishment. And my property is never allowed to be used in the United States of America, ever, at any point. All over again, a livable wage, which I still don't have. I still don't have a place to eat properly, sleep properly, and to work. And my parents' money management is so atrocious. I don't have food stability in a household that is not financially unstable right now. You have destroyed my entire quality of life to the point where I am literally just begging to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. No matter how many times I say that, people think I'm like joking or kidding, merited by their actions. No one does anything. Turn on the TV, there's our great governor, stand up for all Ohioans. Every service member, I have a sworn oath to uphold the Constitution. I've negotiated the most important truths in the history of Earth. Can I have a little bit of money? I've articulated ontology for everybody. Can I have a little bit of money? My demonstration of my behavior is truly pacifying. Can I have a little bit of money? Don't forget that cutthroat mentality from the 80s and the 90s, and now we have to like culminate in like, I'm about to climax in some violent, weird behavior shit. Right? Like people don't know how to behave and it just like escalates. But now it's like, we don't need to compete over nothing. Industry is going to get fixed out. All of those little relics you guys are interacting with, is AI going to take over? And now you guys literally have like magic 8 balls from like literally other star systems? Did that
change, did that take over the technology world? You literally have AI from billions of years in the future. Not the future, but like of technological development. And you guys are like, Y2K was like 26 years ago, bro. Is it coming now? How about now? How about now? And you guys just don't understand and realize every single person at any point in history like thinks they're at some meaningful point of like development. All motivation of life is profoundly banal, profoundly mundane, and nobody's that special ever. It's just this process of maturity and of growing up, and you guys have failed. Obviously. But it was just hilarious saying, Eric Weinstein articulating, we don't want consensus when mathematically a function is consensus, right? It's consistency. And so when you have one doctor saying one thing and one doctor saying the next, and then you literally have the phrasing, you know, make sure you like trust your doctor, or find a doctor you like, or, you know, find a doctor that makes sense to you, right? That's profoundly terrible. People will present that as like, yeah, man, we have different opinions for how metabolism works, how sugar or sucrose or carbohydrates gets processed by the body. We have a different process over here in Georgia as opposed to North Carolina for how, you know, protein is metabolized into muscle, how our amino acids are distributed through our blood system. Of course not. You want scientific consensus. You just want it to be correct. And then we're genuinely at the point where here's what now we know what mathematics is. But you guys have to open your mouth and tell the truth. Sociological functioning, or failure of functioning, people lying, people cheating, people stealing, instinctually all of academia, and then they genuinely don't feel like that's what they're doing, is the problem. The answer is very literally sitting on the internet. You just have to open your mouth and disseminate the knowledge. Spread the information, spread the good word. Speciality is special with an ITY. But again, direct hypocrisy. I've been saying the same things my entire life. So that was just genuinely funny. Again, throw them in prison. All of academia, all of the people that we've referenced, they serve no practical value. Like genuinely, objectively. Market dynamics. You have anybody that invents or tries to sell a compact disc, like a CD or a floppy disk for memory, like it's so obsolete and irrelevant, you're nothing. Academia is so obsolete and irrelevant, it's nothing, besides a profound fraudulent enterprise. And there's just a bunch of bottom-feeding, profoundly pathetic people that say please and thank you, that say aw when they see a cute little animal on their phone, and then when they see somebody saying, hey, my rights are violated, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution, and I am profoundly S-wording because of that, to the point of T-word, can somebody please help me? More importantly, here is the law, do your job. Anybody out there just want to give me a little bit of money in an envelope once a month, or a duffel bag? Nothing. My rights continue to be violated. I say it every day. My life quality is zero. I'm around aging parents, and it's just, I can't, as the most accomplished scientist in history, besides, again, when the overall framework, not die, reproduce, and think, I very legitimately struggle to not die, meaning meet my basic biological needs. I literally can't. Reproduce, not even possible. The social dynamics of not allowing me to socialize have been so profound my entire life. And again, my analytical process speaks for itself, and then the reaction to my life is so objectively validating of, again, what my capacity is. People interact with me, they don't really know what's happening, but it's just this synchronicity is immediate. And then there's one sentiment, and there's only so many words you can use to describe that experience. And I have literally iterated the entire thing multiple times. That is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.